Welcome back to the Next Generation podcast. I am your host, Lauren Moylan, and today's episode is a little bit different than what we have seen pretty much all year for the Next Generation. I am going to do a solo episode. So, it just kind of worked out schedule wise. And then B, this has been something I've been meaning to chat with you guys about for a while now. Actually, for almost the past 2 months, I've been meaning to chat with y'all about it. And if you didn't know by the title, I quit my full time job. I quit my job and went full time in my business. On September 13th was my last day in my corporate job. And that is scary. That is crazy. I still can't believe that this is my life and that I get to sit here and chat with you guys about just like the personal aspects of this, do the life update, do all the things, because it has been a wild 2 months, almost 2 months. And I'm just really excited to chat about it, chat about why I decided to go full time, how I knew I was ready, the leap of faith, and then kind of how it's been going. So I guess me pushing this off a little bit, I get to chat with you guys a little bit about just like how it's going, how I'm liking it, all of the different things. So if you didn't know, previous to September 13th, I was running my 3 businesses and had a full time 8 to 5 corporate job. So I was working since March of 2023. It's when I got hired on there. I've been working for an ag retailer here in Kansas, based out of Kansas. They were a national e-commerce business, but with their headquarters in Kansas. And I was doing customer engagement and retention and some marketing and some other things for them. And let's just say it was hell. I learned a lot at that job. I really, really learned a lot. I learned a lot about working with difficult people. I learned a lot about just myself and my goals and why I wanted to take my businesses full time. And it truly, genuinely gave me the fire under my butt to go full time in my businesses and to build to a point and grind and really hustle and like really, really work really hard to get my businesses to a point that I could take them full time. A big part of that was because I really despised my job and wanted a reason to be able to get out. And there for a while, I did entertain the idea of looking for other jobs. I applied, interviewed for some other jobs. None of them were really the right fit for what I was really looking for. And I think it comes down to God was protecting me from starting other jobs when he had this as his plan for me the whole time. And then B, it also came down to the fact that like, I didn't think those jobs were the right fit because they weren't. They weren't my businesses. They weren't things that I actually had passion for and really drive for. So, I guess I want to say that the idea of going full time has always been my goal for my businesses. There for a little bit, when I was like doing photography part time, I really still, and like when I first started like entering the corporate world, I really had the idea in my head that I was like, I want to keep photography part time because this was just a limiting belief that I had. I wanted to keep photography part time because I had a really big desire to like scale the corporate ladder. And I really thought that that was my goal for a little bit. And then I got humbled and really realized that like this corporate life is not for me. I really dislike people. And not that I dislike people, I love people, but sometimes it was not meant for me. And I will say that I worked with another amazing individual who also left at the same time as me. And she will attest to the fact that that company just was like kind of an outlier because she loves working corporate. She got an amazing new job at corporate in another corporate office and loves it. And so I think that be real with your own journey and understand like if that is your goal, that is amazing. I am so happy for you. But that wasn't my goal. And I really like getting married to Wathan and everything like that. Oh, also, my last day was 4 days after we got back from our wedding. So, way to start marriage. A great way to start a marriage. With the stress of me going full time, because it was a little stressful and it was a big leap of faith that we had to take. So, um, I've like I said, I bounced all over the place on like, yes, I want to take my business full time. No, I want to grow the corporate ladder. And then it was definitely back to, I want to take my business full time and let's grow and get there. And a lot of it was kind of breaking down different aspects of my businesses and be like, all right, what do we need to do to make it there? Another big thing was like, I finally got to a point where I had it with everything else, with the idea of anything else. And I was like, I'm not giving myself an out. I'm not giving myself an option other than to grow this to a point where I am full time. Like, and I'm not stopping until I get there. And there was a lot of just discipline and drive behind that helped me to grow my business to a point where that happened. I would be lying to you guys if I didn't say that this decision was extremely difficult, extremely hard, and that it was really hard to work full time and grow my businesses, have the Cowboy Creative, this podcast, and my photography business, doing all three and trying to build them all while working 8 to 5 every single day. And then also like trying to maintain my health and everything like that. It was difficult. It was really hard. But it was so worth it. So I would say about probably a year before my last day, I is when I first like started really being like, okay, we're going to grow. We're going to get it to a point. And then at the beginning of 2024, I kind of gave myself the ultimatum that I do not care where I am in my businesses. I'm quitting this job in September. It's like I'm going to get through our wedding and I'm done. I'm going to be done after our wedding. And I gave myself that ultimatum at the beginning of 2024, which was crazy for me to say, but I think that just really reinstilled the fact that like I believed in myself enough to put that ultimatum on that, you know what, either way, we're going to figure it out. So I think some of the biggest things that we had to do just from a logistics standpoint to prepare for me to go full time, entering into a marriage, Wathan and I had to have some real conversations of like, hey, this is what my plan is. He supported me 1,000%. And I was like, it came to the point of I sat down and I broke down my income for the next 3 months. In like August or something, I broke down my income and was like, I'm going to be making more in my photography business than I will in my full-time job. And I flipping hate my full-time job. And it's not serving me. I'm ready. We are ready. We're going to be good. And previous to that, it was not easy saving money to prepare for this while also paying for a wedding in the same year. I don't recommend that. But a big thing that we had to do was build up our emergency fund, that just in case fund of if shit hits the fan, we're good. Like if something happens and December rolls around, January rolls around, like, and I'm like, I'm not bringing in any income for us this month. We would still be fine. And we're not going to like foreclose on our house or anything like that. Don't worry, Mom, if you're listening to this, we're fine. We're doing great. And then a big part of that also was I had to start increasing my clientele and my client base I had to be like, okay, I really need to start working more hours in order to start increasing my clientele to fill that full-time slot. because previously I was obviously working full time, so I wasn't taking on as many clients as now I do as an individual that is full time in my business. So had to start ramping those up, and that transition period was not very fun, very easy. There were a lot of limited sleep nights and some tears and a lot of stress with all of that. But it was definitely one of those things that slow ramp up definitely helped me for these like first few transition months. And then another thing that I did was I am a very visual person. I'm a person with a plan. I love plans. I love breaking plans down. I love breaking goals down. So I created a really solid business plan. I sat down with myself and I was like, okay, this is kind of like my timeline plan. And then also just like where my business is, where I want my business to be, where it's growing, the things that I'm going to track as far as like statistics and data go to ensure that like I'm staying on this path, different things like that that I started implementing and putting into a business plan that I now have adjusted since making it. But it really helped me get to a good starting point and to also visually be able to see like, this is how I'm going to be spending those extra 40 hours a week. And this is how I'm going to start applying all of this to my business and like yada, 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 all of those things. The next thing was I had to dive hard into personal growth and development for myself. I'm a big believer that your business can only grow as much as you do as an individual. And so for me, this really looked like diving into like some personal development books, really getting my routine down, getting my self-care down, all of those things, making sure that my cup was getting filled so that I could continue to pour into my business from a full cup and not just be running on fumes all the time and just like fumes and Red Bull, which, you know, sometimes happens, but really just trying to pour into myself, whether that be through podcasts, books, I invested in a mentor, all of these different things that I really started focusing on the growth of myself so that my business could then grow as well. So practically, you need to ask yourself, like, I think a big thing and reason that people aren't ready to go full time is the finances aspect of it. And so if you aren't ready from a financial aspect, you still need to put food on your family's table, but come up with a plan to get yourself there and to continue doing that. As photographers, we're pretty blessed in the aspect that if you do weddings and bigger events and things like that, you typically get booked out about a year in advance. So at least like you kind of have a guaranteed income for the next 6 months to a year. And you know what? I told myself, I was like, if it hits the fan and I need to go like bartend for like a month or something like that, I'll do that. Like that will be better than sitting at this stupid corporate job that I hate. Like, so that's what I did. And that gave me a lot of peace too, of like, at the end of the day, we're not going to end up in a cardboard box on the street. We're going to be fine. So it was a big fat leap of faith. And we will get into that a little bit more too. So quit the job, did all of those things. That conversation with my boss actually went really well, I will say. He was super supportive about it, which I was so grateful for. And it just genuinely got to the point where I had to put it in my calendar multiple months in advance of like, this is going to be my last day, and preparing my marketing, preparing everything else for that transition and that shift. And then when that day finally came, it was an overwhelming sense of peace that I did the right thing and that this was the right move. And I say that it was a leap of faith because at the end of the day, I had to ask myself that if this is a calling that truly I feel like God has put on my heart and is so God ordained, and this business is His, do I trust Him enough to provide? Do I trust Him enough to sit back, let this business be His, surrender it, pray about it, do all of the things, and trust that He's going to provide for my family in one way or another? Yeah, it genuinely came down to me having to ask myself that and being like, yeah, I do trust Him. That was my last straw. That was my last question I had to ask myself before my mindset completely shifted from fear to overwhelming peace, overwhelming joy of like, God's got me. And if you're at a place where you have to, like, I have a really close relationship with Christ. And so that was an easy conclusion for me to come to after praying about it for a long time, guys. And so don't just willy nilly make a decision and be like, well, Jesus, take the wheel. You also have to use the things that he has prepared you with and the talents that he has given you and the resources in this world to prepare for that moment as well. So don't just willy nilly it. Really make this a decision that you think about for a while. And when the timing is right, you will know. So let's go into a little bit of just like the past couple months and what that has looked like for me. I would say my first few weeks, I was so gung ho about like going in, doing the dang thing, working, really just putting my best foot forward. And I saw a lot of really great growth in my businesses in those first few weeks, which was so much fun to see like a quick return of all of the effort that I had been putting in those weeks, but then also in the months prior prepping to get to this spot. So that was really awesome to see. But then there was also the crippling reality that I came to a few weeks after that I didn't have a great work-life balance now that I was full-time. Because going from working a full-time 8 to 5 and having the 3 businesses, I was pretty much working a lot. Like a lot of my evenings I spent working on my business. Yes, I had great work-life balance. The fact that like I still went and hung out with my friends. I still like put intentional time in, scheduled, did all of those things when I was in corporate America and having the businesses. But then it's like, okay, now I'm full-time and I can work my businesses during the day. Why am I sitting at my computer until 10 o'clock at night and not being intentional with my time? I think that's what it came down to, that intentionality with time during my day. So I had to really start like time blocking, tracking, making sure that I was staying really productive during the day. That way I could shut it off at night. Am I going to sit here and tell you that every single night I log off of my computer at 5 or 6 p.m. and I cook a full course meal for my amazing husband and we hang out and we do all the things? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would say I'm pretty good about 3 nights a week at doing that. And we are growing to a point where eventually that will be a more regular thing. But we are also in a season that I am growing these businesses to a place to prepare us to have kids one day. In the next few years, we would love to start our family, and I want to have my businesses to a place where I can be a very present and a very intentional mom and not have to be working 40 hours a week. So right now, we're making those temporary sacrifices in order for that long-term gain. So I think it's being real with your situation, and we're real with ourselves in the fact that like on those nights that I do good at turning it off, I'm very intentional with that, intentional with our time together, intentional with our weekly scheduled date nights, all of those things. But that was definitely something that I was like, I am so used to just working all the time that it felt normal for me to just stay in my office until 7 or 8 o'clock at night and then go eat dinner and go to bed and repeat and recycle and do it the same the next day. But that's not healthy. Don't continue to do that. I want to kind of go into just like advice that I have for anyone else growing their business or looking to go full time, different things like that. I think first and foremost, my relationship with Christ is the only reason that I have so much peace surrounding going full time in my businesses. The next thing, you need to be busy enough to validate it. You need to have like your financials in order, your bookings in order, all of that stuff in order to validate going full time. I work still more than 40 hours a week, every single week. growing the businesses that I have, and then like working with my clients, all of those sorts of things, I work significantly more than 40 hours. So if I only had 15 hours of work to do every single week, and then the rest of the time I was just twiddling around, twiddling my thumbs, that's not a good use of my time. Now, if that's your goal and you are financially and able to be in a place where you only work 15 hours a week, that is amazing. That is awesome. For the average person, that's probably not the case. So you need to make sure that you have a prepped business plan in place, prepped like things that you're going to work on, different business growing activities that you're going to focus on, like all of those things, so that you can stay busy and continue to book clients and put yourself in a position to be able to be okay with going full-time financially and just like in a lot of other aspects, mentally, all of the things. And I will say, a big aspect about going full-time is the mental readiness of that, because it was a big leap of faith and a mental hurdle for me. And you have to not only be financially ready, but mentally ready. And I wish I could say that like, do these 3 things, this will help you grow and get there. But the reality of it is that's not really the case. It is more of the fact of like, hey, it looks different for everyone, unfortunately. And for me, it was spending time with God, knowing that He had my business and that it was surrendered to Him. And then another big aspect was pouring into myself, like physically, and then also just mentally pouring into myself, as far as like personal growth goes, investing in a mentor, investing in coaching, going to therapy, doing all of those things that really just kind of prepped me for that situation. And being a business owner isn't easy. And so it's not easy when, like food getting on your table is dependent on you booking clients and on you fulfilling contracts and like doing all of those things. So there's a lot of stress that comes with that. So I think it's really important to be mentally sound and mentally ready to take that leap. That way that stress isn't debilitating. Because I genuinely think that like if I hadn't have done those things to prepare myself, it would be debilitating. I also want to say, there comes a point, and I know people say this all the time with relationship advice and all of that stuff, and it can get super annoying. You will come to a point when you will know. You will know that it is time. When you get to that point, trust that that is the Holy Spirit talking to you. Trust that you have prepared enough for that situation and that you trust yourself enough and you trust God to handle it. And when that time comes, you will know. It was the flip of a switch for me. From the time that I had been thinking about this for a long time, and then finally the day came where I made the decision and the switch flipped. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much peace. I have an overwhelming amount of peace and joy about this and excitement. And I could not wait to scream it from the rooftops, y'all. I told all of my friends. I told my husband. I told all of my family. Well, not all of my family, like my mom and a few other people. And then like once I put in my resignation letter and like my 2.5 weeks notice or something like that, that's when it was like, oh my God, I'm going full time and like all of the things. I was still like trying to respect my old position and stuff like that in my old company. But it was genuinely came to a point that was like, when you know, and there's going to be an overwhelming amount of peace that comes from that. So going full-time is scary. Going full-time is so worth it though. It has been an absolutely amazing experience to be able to wake up every day and know that I am creating my own schedule, that I am the driver of this boat, and we can kind of go where we want to go and focus on things that really fill my cup, really light my soul on fire, all of those things, and just really focus on what I'm passionate about. I truly, truly believe that God put me on this earth to capture it and to preserve the history of it and to share the stories of it. And it has been such a surreal experience. I cannot believe how insane these last 2 months have been. And I'm excited to look back in a year and see how far we've grown, how far we've come. But yeah, it's been absolutely crazy. If you are a person that is listening to this and you're an entrepreneur and want to talk more about my journey and your journey and just like have someone that's a sounding board, I am more than happy to sit down with you and chat. I do offer coaching for people as well. I really, really love pouring into individuals in a one-on-one basis. So if you're interested in coaching, please reach out. If you're just interested in like talking about my experience, I am always more than welcome to. My DMs are always open. I love sending voice memos back and forth with you guys. I've had some really great conversations with some of you so far about podcast episodes, and I've just really loved it. So I can't thank you guys enough for all, if you're a client listening, for like making this possible. And then for all of you that listen to this podcast for making this possible and are just loyal listeners. If you want to continue to support me and help me, just drop down and leave a review real quick for me. That is one way that like I can continue to just like pour into you guys and pour into this podcast, and continue to grow and reach new people. Do all of the things like that. Go follow us on social media. Make sure you send me a DM if this inspired you or if this was something that really hit home. If you have any questions, please, 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 my DMs are always open. And I just can't wait to hear about your guys' individual journeys and continue to just like walk this path with all of you and share about my life, do all of the things. You guys are the best. And I'm so grateful for how amazing of an audience all of you guys are, and just for all of the unsurmountable, like the insane amount of support that all of you have put at me and just put forth over the past 2 months. You guys are seriously the best, and I am so grateful for all of you. So I will stop rambling. Thank you so much for listening to another podcast of The Next Generation, and I cannot wait to just walk this journey with you guys, and we will see y'all next week on another episode. Bye. Have a great week.